Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. I think even a layman could tell the difference between the two little illustrations in the thumbnail. It's between an 11-week fetus and a 16-week fetus, and I've got the little ruler there for reference. And fetuses are measured crown to rump, not from head to toe. Keep that in mind. Keep that image in your head while I tell you about what happened to 18-year-old Barbara Lee Davis. She is the first abortion death that I know of in a National Abortion Federation member clinic, shortly after NAF was founded. So Barbara Lee had already led a very intense life. She had married her husband, David Davis II, when she was only 15 years old. And at the time of her death, she had a 3-year-old son. So it looks as if mom gave permission to marry because Barbara Lee was already pregnant. And Barbara Lee had been separated from her husband for about a year. They were kind of having an on again, off again relationship. So she had gone to the hospital thinking she was pregnant, and they did a pregnancy test. It came back negative. 2 weeks later, she went in again. This time it came back positive, and she asked for an abortion referral. So a local women's group sent her to National Abortion Federation member Hope Clinic for Women. Certainly you would think that, newly launched under much fanfare, National Abortion Federation, you're going to be safe there, right? When Barbara Lee arrived at the clinic on June 14th of 1977, it had been 5 months since her last menstrual period. So 20 weeks. Hope Medical Director Hector Zavalos examined Barbara and concluded that she was 11 weeks pregnant. Now, at that time in Illinois, 12 weeks and past, you were required to do an abortion in the hospital because of safety concerns. So you draw your own conclusions about whether he decided 11 weeks because she actually appeared to be 11 weeks, or because he wanted to do it outpatient rather than in the hospital. So he performed a suction curettage abortion, and Barbara was moved to the recovery room. The last recording of her blood pressure was made 45 minutes after the abortion ended, and it was only 100/68, which is already indicating that there's a problem. And she was there for a total of 2 hours. So after 45 minutes, she was there another hour and 15 minutes, and they didn't check her blood pressure again, or at least they didn't record it. Now, Barbara Lee attended a post-abortion counseling session, but during that time she was pale and reporting lower abdominal cramping, so they kept her there under observation for an additional half hour. And at some point, Barbara's worried sister, Rita, was told by staff that there had been complications, but that everything was fine. It was about 2 hours after the abortion, Barbara Lee reportedly told staff that she felt better and asked to be sent home. And you need to keep in mind, you can't take the patient's report of how they feel as a sign of how they are, because one of the signs of going into shock is that the person just wants to go home. I'm fine, just let me go home. You check their vitals, you check for bleeding. And if you're noticing hemorrhage, you're noticing low blood pressure, you're noticing rapid pulse, you're noticing any of those signs, it's your job as a medical professional to talk the person out of it, to say, look, this is really alarming. I want to send you to the hospital just in case. And the clinic had a responsibility to do that. Zavalos did not even perform another examination. Her blood pressure wasn't taken again, her pulse wasn't taken again, she wasn't examined. He just said he seemed fine, sent her home. According to the CDC's later investigation, Barbara Lee was showing symptoms suggestive of internal hemorrhage, and her sister said that Barbara was pale and weak as she helped her out to the car. Barbara Lee lay in the back seat on the 2-hour drive home. When they got home, Barbara Lee told Rita that she felt like something was wrong. Rita said that she tried to call Zavalos but was unable to reach him. After about 2 hours after returning home, Barbara Lee tried to stand up, but she fainted. That's when her sister called the hospital. She was taken there by ambulance. They performed an emergency hysterectomy to try to save her life, but she died during surgery, leaving her 3-year-old son motherless. The autopsy found the face and spinal column of Barbara Lee's baby embedded in a hole of her uterus, and there were 2 quarts of blood in her abdomen. This young mother had bled to death. So, again, Illinois law said that there's a 12-week limit on outpatient abortion. And Zavallo said, hey, look, I examined her, looked like a 11-week uterus. I looked at the fetal remains. The products of conception looked consistent with 11 weeks. No. The medical examiner did examine the fetus, the face, and the thoracic vertebral column, laid it end to end, and conservatively estimated 16 to 16 and a half weeks, not 11 weeks. So Barbara Lee's family sued both Zavallos and the clinic for $1 million. In particular, they faulted them with not observing her long enough to ensure that there were no post-abortion complications, not transporting her to a hospital, and not having a written agreement to transfer their injured patients to a hospital. So, again, I show you that illustration in the thumbnail, the difference between an 11-week and a 16-week baby. And they're pretty noticeably different. What do you think? Was Zavallo saying, oh, no, 11 weeks, because he wanted to do it outpatient? Or was he honestly unable to tell the difference between an 11-week fetus and a 16-week fetus? You tell me below. And just for good measure, Hope Clinic for Women remains a member in good standing of the National Abortion Federation.